In the small town of Harrowsville, Dr. Eliza Weber had witnessed various peculiar ailments, but nothing quite like what James brought to her clinic one fateful evening. His eyes, bloodshot and vacant, spoke of an agony she couldn't fathom. James had been an avid traveler, always seeking the most remote and untouched parts of the world. On his recent trip to a secluded village in the dense Amazon rainforest, he had felt an odd prick on the back of his neck, but thought nothing of it. Within days of returning home, he began hearing whispers. At first, they were faint, like the rustling of leaves. But soon, they grew louder, morphing into a cacophony of voices speaking in tongues he couldn't understand. Frantic, he sought medical help, hoping to find an answer to the relentless voices plaguing his mind. Dr. Weber, intrigued and concerned, ordered a full brain scan. The results were chilling. A mysterious, sprawling black mass had settled deep within James' brain. It wasn't a tumor or any known parasite. It looked more like a network, tiny tendrils weaving intricate patterns. Seeking the help of a renowned neurologist, Dr. Harrison, they attempted to decipher the origin of this anomaly. Under a high-resolution microscope, they discovered something far more sinister than they could have ever imagined. The black mass was a living, pulsating organism, unlike any known to man. It was as if a dark, sentient web had taken root in James' brain, feeding off his neural energy. The voices grew more demanding, forcing James to carry out tasks against his will. He'd find himself in places with no recollection of how he got there, holding items he didn't remember picking up. One evening, he woke up in the middle of a forest, clutching a knife, its blade stained with an unidentifiable substance. Desperate, Dr. Weber and Dr. Harrison decided to perform a risky procedure to extract the entity. But as they prepped James for surgery, the voices became a deafening scream, echoing through the operating room. Instruments flew off tables, lights flickered, and shadows danced menacingly on the walls. Dr. Harrison, a man of science and reason, was reduced to a trembling mess, whispering prayers under his breath. Dr. Weber, determined to save James, made an incision, only to be met with a jet-black liquid that oozed out, enveloping her hands and crawling up her arms. James, with an unnatural strength, broke free from his restraints. His eyes, now entirely black, stared at Dr. Weber with a malevolence that made her blood run cold. The entity inside him had taken complete control. It spoke through James in a deep, guttural voice. You cannot remove what wishes to stay. The next morning, the clinic was in chaos. Both doctors were found unconscious, with the same black tendrils starting to form in their brains. James was nowhere to be seen. As days turned into weeks, reports flooded in from neighboring towns of a man with pitch-black eyes whispering incoherent words, spreading the dark infection to anyone he came into contact with. The entity had found a way to multiply, moving from one host to another, leaving a trail of possessed individuals in its wake. Harrowsville, once a peaceful town, became ground zero for a silent epidemic. The infected roamed the streets, their minds lost to the dark web that had ensnared them. There was no cure, no escape, and no hope. In the heart of the Amazon, the same secluded village that James had visited stood abandoned, its inhabitants long consumed by the same darkness. A warning etched into a stone tablet read, "Beware the silent infection, for it seeks not to kill, but to control."